Good morning, sir. Okay. We're using computer audio. Because you've already put this. Take it out when mute lah. Mute. Let me hear lah. Take this out.
क्लास ना मोठं बेटा वेब कॉन्फरन्स
Video off.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am Nirosha Suresh Babu, speaking on behalf of the Alpha Foundations, welcoming you all to this amazing session of the first ever International Web Conference 2020, FORENSICO Dialectica. As we all are going through an unprecedented situation, I hope that all are safe at your homes. Amidst all this, I am glad that you all are here to spend your time in the best possible manner by gaining knowledge and getting to know more about various topics in this field of forensic science. At this time, I take this opportunity to welcome our honorable guests. Firstly, let me welcome Professor Dr. Amiya Bhaumik, founder and Vice Chancellor, Lincoln University College, Malaysia, Vice President, International Education Consulting Group, USA, former research fellow, UNESCO Paris, ex-professor of Business Administration, University of Lucknow, and an ex-professor of Business Administration, University of Malaya. Welcoming you, sir.
Thank you very much. Be here.
I would also like to welcome Professor Dr. Balraj Chauhan, Vice Chancellor, Dharmashastra National Law University, Jabalpur, MP, India, convener of CLAT 2020, Consortium of National Law Universities.
Nirosha Babu नाम है इसका. Nirosha Suresh Babu.
Yes, sir. Okay, let me welcome Professor Dr. Balraj Chauhan, Vice Chancellor, Dharmashastra National Law University, Jabalpur, MP, India, convener of CLAT 2020, Consortium of National Law Universities, President of Indian Society of Criminology, former Director of Amity Law School, Lucknow, ex-Vice Chancellor of Dr. Armal National Law University, Lucknow, ex-Vice Chancellor of National Law Institute, University, Bhopal, India, member of UP State Law Commission and UP State Legal Services Authority, executive member of Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, New Delhi as well. Welcoming you, sir. I would also like to welcome Dr. Mahendra Singh Pal, Senior Advocate, High Court of Uttarakhand, India, former Member of Parliament, Nainital Constituency, India, former Additional Advocate General of Uttarakhand High Court, former President of Committee on Urban and Rural Development, former President, Uttarakhand Bar Council, and former President of High Court Bar Associations of Uttarakhand. Welcoming you, sir. Our theme for this conference is Forensico Dialectica. This basically speaks about the current trends of this field and how it is helping us in the current scenario and going to help us in the upcoming future. This being a very vast field, has many subjects. To name a few, we have question document examination that helps us identify the forged documents. We have fingerprint investigation that helps us to compare and identify the fingerprints, which are the right ones, and identify the criminals. We also have wildlife crime scene investigation, then ballistics, which speaks about the firearms, and so on. Now, let me introduce you to the sub-themes of today's conference. We have recent trends and developments in forensic science and criminology, role of forensic science in criminal justice system, medical jurisprudence, forensic chemistry and toxicology, forensic document and fingerprint examinations, wildlife forensics and forensic entomology, forensic genetics and DNA science, forensic anthropology and forensic odontology, forensic ballistics, firearms and explosives, forensic psychiatry and criminal justice system as well. I would like to introduce you to the organizers of the event. We have Alpha Legal and Forensic Access Private Limited. Alpha has emerged as a great reckoning force and a dynamic forensic organization at the dawn of the century. Alpha is established by highly qualified and experienced forensic professionals to provide best forensic investigation and education services. We also have Asian Institute of Human Science and Development. The Asian Institute of Human Science and Development is a non-profit organization established under the Societies Registration Act 1860 in 2003. Its central office is at Lucknow, and area of operation is the Indian territory, including other nations of the Asian continent and the world. We also have Malaysian Criminological and Correctional Association. Malaysian Criminological and Correctional Association, MCCA, is a non-government, non-profit organization which was established in 2020. MCCA is the first professional organization in Malaysia which committed to develop criminology and correctional sciences in Malaysia. We also have with us AFERD Society, AFERD Forensic Society, India. AFERD is one of the leading organizations in India, providing various forensic social awareness services and programs which are more beneficial for the growth of development of the forensic science in the country. Now, I am gladly welcoming all the participants out there to this event and also wish all the speakers a very all the best. I would also like to mention few rules to be followed at the time of the conference. I hope all the participants, I would request all the participants to mute your mic. And if your video is on, wear proper clothes and seat properly in virtual space as we supposed to see it in real conference. You can turn off the video if you're comfortable in to be present in the lecture in a lying position in bed. You can ask relevant questions to the topic only. I would request all of you to ask your questions in the chat box below and to publish your questions in such a manner it is seen to everyone and not message any speaker privately. No unnecessary comments or personal messages on the chats. Now, I would welcome Professor Dr. Uday Pratap Singh to please speak a few words.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nirosha Suresh, who is anchoring the whole program. But first of all, I would like to say good morning to each and everybody sharing over here, and I'm able to look at those all. But as you know, first of all, that the day, which is today, is the day of our chief guest. He is, in fact, the center of interest. So I'd like to say good morning to Professor Amia Bhaumik, who is chief guest of this particular inaugural session. And other participants, key speakers who are present over here, particularly Professor who is likely to join, Professor Mukesh Thakkar, Professor Adarsh Kumar, Professor T. Nat Rajamurthy, Professor Naru Jayati Muhammad Nasir of Malaysia, Professor Rahim Kamaluddin of Malaysia, and I'd very much pleased to welcome Dr. Gadail Sai Daloti. She's here for a long time. I'm looking at her. And Dr. Vikram Ahuja, Dr. Najib Arafat Mahat of Malaysia, Dr. Sarabjit Singh of India, Dr. Ian Lloyd Antonia, and Dr. Muhammad Asrul Haq, and Dr. Jabis Hossi of Kenya. And dear and respected participants, ladies and gentlemen, as you know that we are here to first of all inaugurate today's IWCFSC-2020, named as Forensico Dialectica, Mesmerizing Facts About Education, Research and Practices. So, dear friends, you know, forensic science, which is having these three major pillars. First, education, another research, and another one, which is very, very important, that is related to the practice. So education, research, and practice. These are three pillars on the basis of which the building of forensic science is being to build up. And you know, forensic science, if I go back, then I see that it is very much related with the justice. Justice, according with the words of Aristotle, who is a Greek philosopher and great anthropologist, says that justice is as the practice of perfect virtue. And perfect virtue is a question of the abstract principle of abstracts. Principle of abstracts. It means it is slightly away from the practical approach. And today we are moving with the practical scientific world. You know, practical scientific world, which is also very much experiencing a great pandemic, COVID-19, and across the world, 60 lakhs people are affected, and about 3.66 lakhs people died. But that's why I'm trying to attract your attention towards the great anthropologist Aristotle, in real sense, who first of all used the term anthropologist in Greek history, not only in Greek history, in whole world history. I can also remember the Indological knowledge, Indian sense, Indian vision, ethos, and each and everything related with the justice, like to say Ram Raj. In words of Tulsidas says, Ram Raj baithe trailoka, harshit gaye bhaye sab shoka. How the harsh happiness will come up. It is related with the justice. And justice is a question of the abstract principles. So if I also quote another philosopher who is also related with the Greek European history, who is named as Pluto. Pluto says that a gathering of morally honest and just people is called just society. Just society, which is very much related with the truth. But practical word, as well as you can say that the words which are related with the forensic science used to sacrifice the beauty of truth. Beauty of truth, because the court, our advocates, enforcement agencies, and several people who are related with the justice used to say and used to move by the legal verdict, by the legal verdicts, or by several kind of practical approaches are also touching and influencing those things. But how truth can be realized? How? Because legal aim of the foreign science or of the criminal justice system or justice delivery system is only that truth prevails. Truth should be prevail, and no innocent person will be convicted. Innocent person should be protected. If innocent person is being protected, then those who are accused and those who are culprit is certainly be convicted. So if they are being convicted, it is the aim of truth, it is the aim of our legal judicial system. But legal judicial system, legal just criminal system. That's why you used to experience that the eyewitness, which is very much important in delivering justice. Eyewitness are used to be influenced by this practical word. This practical word where Gita says there are 5 enemies: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Ahankar. Lust, anger, greed, and attachment and pride, feeling of pride. These 5 enemies used to influence the people who are involved in justice delivery system, who are involved in enforcement, the law enforcement agency. So eyewitness, the importance of eyewitness slowly and slowly going down. Importance of eyewitness decreases. At that time, the aim of science, the importance of science increases. And importance of science increases, then justice delivery system invites to the scientific person who is called expert witness. An expert witness, dear ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, you know, expert witness is very much important, but expert is that, it is being used to be said, expert is that who is knowing more and more about less and less. Means he or she knows everything about nothing. That's why this is the beauty of forensic science, which does everything out of nothing. My dear friends, out of nothing, and does everything, but everything, the resource, which is the real resource? Resource is the biological identifiers. Resource is the socio-cultural identifiers, and resource is the behavioral identifiers. These three categories of identifiers, variables, which identify a person, identify an individual. But these three categories of identifiers are very much related with the mankind, and with the science of mankind, which is anthropology. That is why I used to say that legitimate mother of forensic science is anthropology, my dear friend. Because first of all, you observe the physique, whole body, and biological identifiers are there. Secondly, then, socio-cultural identifiers, and third category is behavioral identifiers. These three categories qualify a person who may be a culprit, who may be a victim. When is culprit, then you can remember a case which was related with the forensic anthropometry. Father of forensic anthropometry used to be called as name. His name is, you my dear friends, you know, Alphonse Bertillon, who established a technique of, that technique is called Bertillon's technique. And Bertillon's technique became failed at that time, where two persons are found having the same anthropometric profile. Anthropometric profile, Will West and William West. These two persons, identical twins. At that time, again, one anthropologist, father of dermatographics, named as Sir Francis Galton. Sir Francis Galton gave a technique to identify the twins. Identical twins even can be identified on the basis of this strong technique. And after that, several biological identifiers, sociocultural as well as behavioral identifiers, were identified on the basis of several techniques. Several techniques could be evolved, but first of all, here again I want to focus on that without being in curricula, in university curricula, nothing can happen. And first university teaching started in Switzerland by R.A. Rees. R.A. Rees, a great contributor, R.A. Rees. And then it goes to California and other places, FBI and several places. In the 20th century beginning, there are several these kind of discoveries happened. So, dear friends, as time is not permitting over here to say more, because this is a particular session is only and only of my chief guest. So I would share my feeling with you all in coming 2 days. But now I would like to invite my respected brother, President and former Vice Chancellor of Lincoln University College, Malaysia, and he did a lot of work in anthropology, in management science, in forensic science, in each area, and several kinds of knowledge he is having. So I preferred to invite him. He is with us, so I do not make him here to wait. So I would request to Nirosha Suresh to first to read very briefly his contribution in particularly Malaysia, India, and in the world. We've done a lot. So I'm stopping myself over here and inviting my dear and most respected friends, Professor Amia Bhaumik. Okay, Nirosha Suresh, are you going to speak?
Yes, sir.
Then now yours time, and after reading a brief biodata of Professor Amia Bhaumik, who's a great person, then you invite him. Okay, now, Dr. Nirosha Suresh.
Professor Dr. Amia Bhaumik, President and former Vice Chancellor, Lincoln University College, Malaysia. Vice President, International Education Consulting Group of St. Louis, USA. Former Research Fellow, UNESCO Paris. Former Professor of Business Administration, University of Lucknow. And the former Professor of Business Administration, University of Malaysia. We are welcoming you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nirosha Suresh. And thank you, Professor Uday Pratap Singh. Good morning to my colleagues from India, and salam alaikum to my colleagues from Malaysia, and good morning to everyone, whosoever from whichever the country. I'm very pleased to be present, and I was given the opportunity to inaugurate the very important first international web conference on forensic science and criminology. And I appreciate what Professor Uday Pratap Singh has talked about anthropology, contributions of anthropology, forensic sciences, and so forth. Uday and myself goes back, long back, very, very back. We worked together in early 80s. And since then, we know each other. Now, coming back to this particular conference, I have few things to talk about, starting with what Uday said, that this conference has got three important: education, research, and practice. I think it would be good if all of you could mute your mic, please, because I'm having this microphone. And yes, thank you. Education, research, and practice. Now, where is this terminology came from? Forensic science. No doubt, Aristotle, Plato. But the more the society is growing, and we find the forensic science has become a part of our life. Forensic science and criminology has become like a blood life in our society. But how many of us are actually thinking how to stop this growth of forensic science and criminology? How do we put the preventive medicine? The prevention is the best cure of all types of criminal act and etc. Now, going back to Aristotle and Plato, what the justice, the just society. Now, to me, which I have been traveling so far with all of your blessings, I have traveled more than 110 countries because of my professions, because our Lincoln University's collaborative partners, research, and etc. What we need to do is we need to train our young generations. We need to train our children in a preventive measure so that as they grow, they do not behave to be criminals. And this criminal activity is just not stealing, it's just not taking away wealth from someone, it's just not simply grabbing money into. No. It is what Aristotle said, a justice. And justice, when we talk about justice, it is always connected with punishment. And what I often say, this justice and punishment, the self-guilt, the self-punishment is the biggest punishment, no matter what other punishment you give in this world. Now, and this is what we call preventive medicine towards the criminal act. Now, we need to groom our children. We need to train our society that how to make them feeling self-guilty, that if I do this act, I will be feeling miserable. So this kind of social, the cultural, biological training, if we can involve into forensic science education, that the preventive medical doctor is nothing but the social cultural grooming. Now, having said that, how do we achieve that? To achieve this, we have become the greedy. what you call towards a materialistic wealth. Now, these materialistic wealth, the greediness, if we can train our children, President Abraham Lincoln, whom I adore very much, when his son went to school, he told his son's teacher, please do not teach my child how to become rich, rather teach my child how to become happy. When Abraham Lincoln, he became president, he had everything power. But what he did, he managed to control the civil war. He managed to control the bonded laborness by practicing what we call forensic preventive medicine, by inducing the Senate members the justness, the ethics, the truthfulness, the honesty. So as we are here, 35 of us, and we are responsible educators. I always tell people as I travel that I do not like to use title professor. I want to tell myself I am an educator, a teacher. So as we are educators here, gathered today in this historical forensic science conference, we should implement it, just not forensic science, the current methodology of testifying DNA, just go all the time criminal investigation. Rather, we should put into the practice, into education, research, into the forensic science and criminology curriculum, that how we can create our society a forensic social doctor. And when I say forensic social doctor, we educators are the forensic social doctors. We should take responsibility to groom our society, train our society, be just, be ethical oriented, do something which you don't do to yourself. This kind of training, if we incorporate in our forensic science and criminology, instead of catch hold of the criminal and put them into jail and keep them for 6, 7, 3 months or whatever, 6, 7 years or etc., we don't get anything out of that. You don't get. But if we groom that particular criminal from the day one of his birth in this world, that look to be just, to be social, to be an educator, and not to grab materialistic world, not to think that, okay, I have a bank account $1 today and tomorrow how I can make it $1,000. This kind of greediness, if we can stop, you will find the criminal behavior will run away. And that is what we need to do, these educators. I have a program in Somalia, Mogadishu. I go there every 3 months. I have a program in Afghanistan, Kabul, Kandahar. I have my students. Lincoln is offering their programs. I go there. People are scared, but I am not scared. Why? Because I see these people, they are hungry for this kind of social training, cultural training, that where they can be forensic preventive doctor so that they can help. So that kind of education, research practices we should put up into. And as every religion, every spiritual practices train us to be just, train us to be ethical and honest human being. So let's put together in our curriculum, in forensic science curriculum, that what you call forensic preventive doctor, to be a just, to be peace oriented, to be social oriented, rather than grabbing materialistic wealth. The moment we can put this one, we won't have COVID-19. The COVID-19 is nothing but cause of greediness, cause of materialistic grabbing from somebody else. And this can be prevented. Let's create forensic preventive doctor, forensic preventive medicine, by way of grooming our brothers, our fathers, our sisters, our children, that you're going to be forensic preventive doctor, so that a society will come, the world will become peaceful, happiness. There will be no hatred. There will be no jealousy. There will be nothing but no criminal act is there. If we go back to our history of evolution, in the history of evolution, where we had these criminal activities, where we had this forensic so-called, because that time we were not thinking of grabbing somebody's wealth. We are not thinking of how I can increase bank balance. We are not thinking today I'm driving Proton car, tomorrow how I can drive Mercedes car. We were not thinking. We only think that time how quickly I can go from point A to point B. So the forensic science, the criminology, are very much rooted with the society, and we educators, responsibility belong to us, that how we can make these forensic science into our society as a part of life, that criminal activities is just not simply grabbing wealth, but criminal activities in terms of stealing somebody's happiness. Criminal activity, even if I speak something harsh words towards my staff, towards my colleagues, towards my brother, that harsh word, President Abraham Lincoln has termed as criminal act. So criminal act is just not stealing. Criminal act also when we talk very harsh word. If we speak little lovely word, kind words to our fellow members, and that kind words will stop a criminal not to do crime activities. Now, before I end, I would like to share with you my personal experiences, that how I have prevented a criminal act. And that particular person now a richest man, biggest businessman in Russia. Late 80s or early 90s, I was a visiting lecturer in Moscow University. And I used to be very friendly with my students. And one of the students, Russian student, I used to go out with him. I used to have lunch. His parents would like to invite me to their house for dinner. And so every students in the class used to see, wow, we are so close. But when exam came in, result was out, I failed that particular student. December 23 in Moscow, the temperature -35. Around 3 a.m., somebody was knocking my apartment door. And I looked through the door hole and I saw that my student. I opened the door. The moment I opened the door, the student immediately put the knife to my chest, saying that, if you don't pass me, I will kill you. I raised my hand like this, please come on inside. And I said, if you kill me, you're not going to get anything. Please come on inside. I brought him inside. I was alone in the apartment, closed the door, and my hands were up. And I slowly asked him, come to the dining table. I made him to sit down. I said, grab some drink. In Moscow, you know, vodka is a very popular drink. I made him to take drink, the winter, -35. And I kept on saying that you can kill me, but I won't be able to pass you. Go ahead and kill me. But if you go back, rejoin the same class, repeat the semester, and follow my guidelines, I bet you, you will pass. From 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., I spoke with him. He went back and he passed out. Today he has got 3 children. Every December 23rd, he and his children and wife will call me, said, we are celebrating our dad's birthday today. I said, why? He said, this is the day you have saved his life. This is what educator. And that is how I prevented that particular boy not to do criminal act. So we educators, we should think forensic science in this way to groom. And that particular man today would be calling me and he would call me, sir, if you need anything, just call me, phone call away. And I said, no, my happiness, my prize that today you are the richest man in Russia and big businessman, and yet you are not a criminal, you play a just role. So with this, I thank you all, especially my colleague, Uday. I always call him Uday Bhai, brother, and to invite me on this. And he has been working in this anthropology field very diligently. He was head of Department of Anthropology, Lucknow University, oldest university in 1920s established. And lots of Malaysian students used to go to Lucknow for study as well. It's the oldest university in India. And I appreciate Uday Bhai to invite me. And let's do this. We all educators do something before we take off. I always say that, you know, right now, COVID-19, all airports are shut down. But when again airports will open, you know, transit flight, when it is taking off. But we human being, the world is just like airport. And we are like flights. We do not know when we are going to take off. So before we take off from the world, let's create a good forensic preventive doctor who will create peaceful, happier society, so that people will remember us that before we left the world, we have left a mark of a good forensic preventive doctor. So with this, thank you all. And let us pray to the Almighty, whatever belief we practice, that they give us strength, He gives us power, He gives us devotion, so that we can create many forensic preventive doctor, so that we don't have criminals in the society, but a peaceful human society. Thank you, and God bless.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. for giving enlightening inaugural address. And now I would like to invite Dr. Nirosha Suresh to propose the formal vote of thanks. Now, Dr. Nirosha Suresh.
Thank you so much, sir, for spending your valuable time with us and explaining all the possible subjects in many different manners and for sharing all your experiences with us. Today, my words are not enough to express the gratitude. On behalf of our IWCFSC organizing team, I would like to thank our chief guest, Professor Dr. Ameya Bhaumik, who graced us with his thought-provoking address, set a perfect platform for our conference. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Now we'll start off with our session of speakers. First, I would like to invite Dr. Naji Arafat Mahat, Faculty of Science, University, Technology, Malaysia.
Hello, good morning. I have prepared my slide presentation, so I guess I would have to use the share screen button. I hope you wouldn't mind that.
Yes, sir. I allowed you as a host, please. Yeah, you can proceed now.
Okay, can you see the slides?
Yeah. It's clearly visible to us.
I think have to unmute your mic, Professor. Cannot hear your voice. Professor? Yes.
Do you want me to turn off the microphone?
No, I think you are okay. Go ahead.
All right, okay, sure.
No, you need to turn on your mic. Are you talking anything? Dr. Naji, we cannot hear you at all.
Sir, you can unmute yourself.
No, I'm.
Can you hear it?
Yes,
Yes,
now
sir.
I can. Now,
Now we can hear you, sir.
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
cannot hear at all.
Okay, I think I have to do it manually. Okay, allow me to restart the presentation. Sorry for that. Okay, we are actually at slide number 2. If you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Right. So this second slide actually depicts the pertinent legal questions that are usually puzzling forensic investigators. The first question is on how long has the person died? This is an important fact to be established in a homicide or suicide case. The information would provide the investigators with valuable clue to prove or disprove an alibi. This is fundamental for placing the suspects at the crime scene at the question interval as well as when the murder took place. As a matter of fact, this is the most significant contribution of forensic entomology in crime investigations. Estimation of post-mortem interval can be done via the basic ways that include developmental stages of the oldest necrophagous insects and succession of insects. The first approach is practically useful during the first 1 or 2 weeks of death, while longer period after death may require the successional insect approach to deal with. The second question is this primary crime scene. Primary crime scene is the actual place where the crime took place. For example, a person is murdered in a house, so that house is the primary crime scene. However, if the body was later dumped in a bush, and that was the place where the body was found, that location is called the secondary crime scene. Once again, establishing the fact that suspect at the primary crime scene is paramount, as it may indicate that he or she, as the perpetrators, at the secondary crime scene does not always prove that he or she as the culprit of such a murder action. The question is, can forensic entomology help in answering this question? The direct answer explained by giving an example. Say, for example, a body was found in a primary forest in Malaysia of decomposition. Upon examining the oldest larvae on the body, it was evident that they were of Synthesiomya nudicita. In Malaysia, S. nudicita is a species commonly observed indoor. In primary jungle, the common species are Chrysomya villanuvae, Hypopygiopsis valoisiae, and Hypopygiopsis fumipenis, but the species were not the oldest one on the body. This would corroborate the fact that the person may have died in indoor condition, and as it had already infested before the body was dumped at the secondary crime scene. The next question is, I would like to club the two questions into one. What is the probable cause of death, as well as any post-mortem alteration, such as the use of insecticides? This area is actually known as entomotoxicology, a relatively new area in forensic entomology. So it deals with two important things. Number one, it deals with the toxicological inference of the analysis in view of suggesting the cause of death. The second one is actually looking at the possible influence of the drugs and poisons on the developmental pattern of insects in view of how it alters the accuracy of the PMI estimate. So to put perspective, I know that there are many scientists at they are actually advocating that entomotoxicology may not be used. They mentioned that since the drug of abuse can be detected in the body, there's no practical value of evaluating drug of abuse in the larvae. That is actually true, but the context that we have to look at it is different. Say, for example, you want to commit suicide. You want to commit suicide in a place where people would not deter you from doing so. That would include a remote place. So when you commit suicide in a remote place, okay, and the body is not found for a few days, the body is actually in a very bad stage of decomposition, and the samples may not be suitable for analysis anymore. So, but they are actually feeding on the decomposed possible cause of death, especially when it deals with the drugs or poison that can rape and paraquat. Because malathion and paraquat are not actually abused, unlike amphetamine, heroin, cocaine. So because it is not abused, even the qualitative detection of paraquat and malathion in the larvae could throw light to the possible cause of death. So that is actually the value of forensic entomotoxicology in forensic investigation. The next question is, who is this person? In instances where the body is not found at the primary crime scene, but maggots are found on the floor or carpet, etc., etc., the DNA profile human DNA in the gut content of such larvae can be attempted. The profile can be compared with the available DNA databases as well as to his or her sibling or parents. This will also prove the existence of the victim at the primary crime scene. Alternatively, should, for certain reason, DNA cannot be sampled from the body, DNA analysis of the larvae can still be attempted in similar fashion for human identification. The next question is, was it a foul play? Well, to answer this question, we have to answer all the previous questions that I posted earlier. So of course, if you can find the body laying there for a number of days, of course, there is something fishy about it. And if there is an involvement of insecticide on the body, definitely there is something fishy about it. Somebody is trying to confuse forensic entomologists in arriving the estimated post-mortem interval. So these are the pertinent legal questions in depth investigations that can be addressed by forensic entomological assessment. So what is the basic premise for using forensic entomological evidence in crime investigation? We have to understand that beyond 72 hours, that is 3 days after death, the pathological changes like livor mortis, algo mortis would not be useful for suggesting the cause of death. The body temperature will be about the same as the ambient temperature. So it's not going to be very useful at suggesting the cause of death, as discussed in length by many forensic entomologists, including Dr. Dorothy Gannett. And the second premise is that necrophagous insects are poikilotherms and they develop at predictable manner. Poikilotherms refers to the fact that insects cannot generate their own body temperature for sustaining their biochemical function, so they need to rely on the environmental temperature or heat for that. So we can calculate the accumulated degree hours and accumulated degree days, and later on subsequently estimate the post-mortem interval. So to put in perspective, these are the pieces of information that can be provided by forensic entomologists in depth investigation. Number one, it can provide you with the possible estimation of time since death or post-mortem interval. by looking at the developmental stages of the oldest necrophagous insects, as well as the species composition. It can also provide us with information of the possible post-mortem relocation of the bodies by studying the species composition on the dead body. It can also help in identifying the disease by analyzing the larval gut content for human DNA, and it can throw light to the possible cause of death, especially when it deals with drugs that can readily cause death or poison that can readily cause death, like malathion and paraquat. So what are the challenges? After discussing the evidential values of forensic entomological assessment in forensic investigation, as well as the underlying principles, it becomes imperative to explore the challenges that are associated with its application. I categorically break the challenges into scientific and non-scientific types. Are you guys still following me?
Yes, yes, sure.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. So firstly, it is pertinent to indicate that the accuracy of PMI estimate relies on the accurate interpretation of insects data. Studies have shown that drugs and poisons can either delay oviposition and the duration for completing the life cycle, or even make the oviposition and completion of life cycle faster. There are also drugs and poisons that can have substantial influence on human being, but do not appear to cause any considerable change to the insect oviposition and developmental pattern. The fact that there are many drugs entering the market each day, the real potential of such drugs and poisons in view of if they alter such parameters need to be ascertained. This is particularly important because any factors that can influence insects' developmental pattern can subsequently result in erroneous estimation of post-mortem interval. The fact that there are drugs that are taken on daily basis like antidiabetics, etc., their influence on insect must also be ascertained to avoid any doubts during the course of investigation. Secondly, the baseline data developed in one region cannot be used to make inference on another region. This is because the species composition as well as the extrinsic factors may not be the same. This aspect necessitates performing similar forensic entomological studies in various regions. As such, this is a forever ongoing thing that needs to be studied for the benefit of investigation. Thirdly, to ensure that we utilize the most appropriate entomological data, accurate taxonomic identification of the species is undoubtedly important. For example, to the naked eyes, to the untrained eyes, Chrysomia megacephala and Chrysomia rufifacis may look the same as they both are blowflies. However, the two species require very different durations for completing their life cycle. Therefore, inaccurate identification of species would result in inappropriate application of data, which in turn results in inaccurate PMI estimation and the miscarriage of justice. The fact that the process is tedious and taxonomies are not always available on time, this can be a real challenge to the application of forensic entomology in investigation. Fourthly, current research in forensic entomology shows that the microbial assemblages on dead bodies would release the different chemoattractants for forensically important insects. Considering that this is true, and the fact that it is still at its very nascent stage of research, the uncertainties attributable to this aspect can cause a significant doubt in the forensic entomological assessment. Fifthly, because there are many biotic and abiotic factors that can influence insects like rain and shade, etc., and because in practical casework, data from nearest climatological station need to be gathered to estimate PMI, this can cause further arguments. This is because the climatological station may be located at 10 or 20 kilometers away from the scene. The microenvironment at the scene may vary from the overall conditions recorded by the station. The fact that the entomologist is not at the crime scene during the course of the crime, that can also be another challenge to be explained. As for the non-science challenges, it is imperative to train the scene of crime officer to appreciate the potential values of forensic entomological assessment. They need to be trained on what to look for, how to collect, how to preserve, and where to find the evidence. This is important because we entomologists are civilians. We are not bound to go to crime scene 24/7 like the police officers. Because of that, the scene of crime officer must be well trained in this aspect. Lastly, the fact that testifying in court can be difficult and challenging. Not many entomologists are willing to provide their expert opinion or expertise to the investigation, causing limited number of available forensic entomologists to assist the investigation. So these are the challenges to the application of forensic entomology, but by all means, they are not meant to be exhaustive because there are many other challenges that can somehow hinder the application of forensic entomology in crime scene investigation. With that, I think I have come to the end of my presentation. Right, I've discussed about the evidential values of forensic entomology, how it can be used, what are the basic premises for the use of forensic entomological assessment, as well as I talk about the challenges that we are facing in view of employing forensic entomological assessment in crime investigation. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity once again to deliver this talk. I give it back the baton to the Dr. Norisha. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for this informative session. I would request all the participants to please put out your queries, if any, in the chat box below. And Naji, sir, could you please make the host back to Alpha Forensic Science Lab? Could you transfer the host?
I cannot hear you clearly because it's raining heavily here. Can you speak louder?
Okay, sir. Could you please transfer the post of the host back to Alpha Forensic Group?
I cannot hear you. Sorry, I cannot hear. What again?
No, I think you go on to your participant list. You will see right now you are the host, and just transfer that host to Alpha. I think Dr. Nirosa, you may have to declare in advance.
Yes, sir.
That whenever you pass the, what do you call?
Hello? Yeah.
Dr. Nirosha, I think that the session should go on and next speaker should be called up over here. And question should be put up at the end of this particular session. So,
Sure, sir. I'll do that.
So-
But then, if the next speaker has to share the screen,
yeah, next speaker is waiting. He's a
Yeah.
professor. He's Dr. Mahen.
Dr. Mahen Singh Pal.
Mr. Mahen Singh Pal.
Yeah, I got this.
yes,
Dr.
sir.
Mahen Singh Pal.
Yes, sir. But for welcoming him, he has to share his screen, so he has to be.
No, he has shared his screen. I'm
Nirosa,
able to look at him.
I'm the
Okay.
host now, so you can proceed. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm welcoming Dr. Mahen Singh Pal. Please speak on. You are most welcome over here. Please speak on.
What I understand regarding the forensic science and experimentation and trial. It's a evidence act, right? May I clear?
Yes.
This is what forensic science in investigation and trials related this how to implication with evidence act admissible in the criminal trials and investigation. That is the if I understand, if I can confirm it, so I start. Are you listening me? There's a difficulty to hearing. I think so. Right?
Dr. Paul, we are able to hear you. I'm waiting for your lecture.
Well, why? Firstly, I want to just query regarding this thing.
Regarding what?
Right? Forensic science in a criminal investigation and trial related with the evidence act, how it is admissible. That is the I think the main topic of today. What you arguing regarding this matter, right?
Okay. You are free to deliver your lecture. You can speak on. Yeah,
Right.
very much. Yeah.
So far now, this forensic science. So, is
Yeah,
very
it's
important.
your time, Dr. Paul. Dr. Singh, it's your time. Please.
So far, forensic science is concerned, FSL is a very needed and admissible in evidence act. So far, criminal investigation as well as the criminal trials is concerned.
We are not audible. Please, please. It's not audible. Please.
That's the problem with the technology and all. So,
First of all, I would like to welcome Dr.
asking,
your great contribution related with.
I want to submit before this thing. The availability of the project conference. So that is is why I code
You have established an excellent chamber. We are able to look at.
thank you very much. So that is why High Court and Supreme Court, all lawyers are demanding that there should be court proceeding, not by this way, but
Admissibility of evidences.
this is the more important nowadays. Without FSL, we cannot come in conclusion. As I should say before I submit regarding the FSL and related to the admissibility in Evidence Act and all in our criminal trials and Evidence Act, etc. What exactly? In Hindi,
Yes.
here is a proverb.
Yeah.
पानी का पानी, right? दूध का दूध, पानी का पानी can be possible.
Yeah. Okay. It's perfectly all right. Please. Go ahead.
Only by this investigation, FSL and all. Now, this forensic science is a part of, has linked with this science, chemistry, physics, other medical sciences, all forensic nature now developed from all these sciences. This study goes on that direction also. And there's a lot of development and lot of branches they have developed, like fingerprints and track marks, document, handwriting expert. These are basic branches they have developed. So that, are you listening?
Yes, we are listening.
We are listening.
We are able to listen you. That's all.
So that they can come in conclusion. So far, fingerprints are concerned. This is a very important branch now. FSL so far to decide the criminal side. As I said, due to this development, as I said, दूध का दूध, पानी का पानी, can be done only by this agency, by FSL, by investigation. All officers, judges, lawyers, all should know regarding the forensic science. That to decide the trials, especially criminal trials. And in our area, here is in our High Court, Uttarakhand High Court, also there's the one academic known as academic institution, known as to give the training all the lawyers, judges, and other institutions, including the police institution, known as Ujala. Every year they give the 1 month, 2 month training to all these institutions regarding the forensic science, other related law, so far the criminal trials, Evidence Act, etc. related to it. What I'm submitting, it is a more important branch nowadays. Without FSL, without forensic science, no investigating officer can investigate the case in a proper time. Moreover, it is a now it has a vast field, and everybody, lawyer, judges, and the jurist, as well as the police officer, also going through this study of the forensic science. In other words, I should say only in a circuit there is a when they started the Buddha and so far this Jari says Pindam Sparnam Pindam and Puspam Sparnam Puspam. It is only can be possible. तभी हो सकता है जब आप उसको प्रॉपर प्लेस पे वो करें, इन्वेस्टिगेशन ऑफिसर उसको प्रॉपरली उस डायरेक्शन पे वो करे. और so far admissibility of evidence concern, I would like to recall one judgment that is Supreme Court, Santi Bai and others versus State of Maharashtra, March 3 March 2008. Here are in that judgment, the Supreme Court held that here must be crime must be related with the same case. Like one जब blood ले लेते हैं with the blood को test करने के लिए, this is the human blood, and it does not mean that the blood related with that person. This is or either accused. Here should be that blood group must be related with the that person. So suppose here is a blood group, it should be A in a forensic science, then only it can be related. So my submission is very clear. The forensic science is a more important to give the judgment, judgment in criminal cases. So far, evidence is concerned. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahen Singh Ji. And you enlightened us. But the question related with this particular area will be asked later on and after this particular session. So now, next.
Thank you so much, sir. So next, I would like to call upon Dr. Ian Lloyd Anthony, Department of Forensic Psychiatry, Hospital Bahagia, Ulukinta,
Now,
Malaysia.
Dr. Anthony, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly, sir. Thank you very much. If I can just put on my slides.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I given this session to you, sir.
Yes,
Right.
sir. You can carry on. You can share your screen.
All right, can you visualize my slides that I've just put on?
Yes, yes, we can.
Sure.
All right, thank you very much, the chairperson. And I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to present at this first international conference. Thank you very much. So I would like to introduce myself before I begin. My name is Dr. Ian Lloyd Anthony. I am a forensic psychiatrist and the head of the forensic subspecialty in Malaysia. The topic of my presentation today is forensic psychiatry and the criminal justice system in Malaysia. Right, so I would begin by introducing what forensic psychiatry is all about. Forensic psychiatry is a subspecialty of clinical psychiatry, which requires special legal and criminological knowledge as well as experience in treatment of complex mental disorders. It is defined as a specialty of medicine that is based on the detailed knowledge of relevant legal criminal issues pertaining to mentally disordered offenders. It is a specialty that is concerned with individuals who have committed criminal offenses, who especially suffer from serious psychiatric disorders. And some of the common risk factors amongst offenders with mental disorders include social deprivation, low educational attainment, childhood physical and sexual abuse, unemployment, history of multiple psychiatric admissions, as well as previous contact with the criminal justice system. These are common risk factors that are encountered amongst almost every offender with a mental disorder. All these offenders with the mental disorders are cared for in secure environments. These are usually low, medium, or high security environments, such as prisons, as well as dedicated forensic psychiatric hospitals. Most of the major prisons in Malaysia have specialist psychiatric services incorporated. The forensic psychiatric hospitals in Malaysia are medium to medium secure facilities. These centers detain offenders for long periods, most of time in highly restrictive conditions. And the purpose for detention of offenders with mental disorders are basically for their care and treatment, as well as for public protection. Now, the role of a forensic psychiatrist is basically to, it may differ, but largely, by and large, it is the same across all countries. The legal and clinical frameworks, however, may differ. So the roles include treatment of mentally disordered offenders, which requires specialist knowledge in assessing and managing complex mental disorders and violence. The forensic psychiatrist usually heads a multidisciplinary team, which consists of general psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, occupational therapists, and paramedics who work at the interface of law and psychiatry. Producing reports and giving expert evidence in court is the cornerstone and forms the bulk of the workload for the forensic services in Malaysia. Apart from that, also, we are actively involved in the assessment and management of risk of especially violence and sexual offending, and as well as the prevention of recidivism. I would like to speak a little bit on the ethics of forensic psychiatry, because the practice of forensic psychiatry, by and large, differs from general psychiatry. As a general psychiatrist, you would be more involved in the treatment and rehabilitation of psychiatric patients. But as a forensic psychiatrist, you are largely bound to evaluate the offender with respect to the questions that are posed by the courts, which entails largely criminal responsibility and fitness to plead. Apart from that, the best interest of the patient may not be the primary goal in the forensic psychiatric setting. The interest, of course, the overwhelming duty is largely towards the courts in assessing the offender so that a just decision can be produced by the judge at the end of the day. Forensic psychiatry in Malaysia is largely focused on criminal responsibility evaluations, treatment of rehabilitation of mentally disordered offenders post-trial, as well as the treatment of mentally disordered offenders in prison. However, the services are largely limited because we only have 3 forensic psychiatrists in Malaysia as of now. So we are largely overwhelmed by the current workload, and of course we are looking forward to encouraging more young psychiatrists to join us in this field. Well, the services in this country are largely provided by 4 of the mental institutions in Malaysia, 2 of which are in Peninsular Malaysia, and the other 2 in East Malaysia. These are forensic psychiatric institutions. Almost all psychiatric hospitals, almost all general hospitals in Malaysia have psychiatric services, but forensic services are only provided in the 4 mental institutions. by virtue of these institutions being gazetted as approved psychiatric hospitals under the Mental Health Act, Section 22 of the Mental Health Act. So only these 4 institutions can receive cases sent by the courts for criminal evaluations of criminal responsibility and fitness to plead. This is just a picture of the forensic unit in Hospital Bahagia Ulu Kinta, Tanjung Rambutan, the place where I work. These are the range of services provided by the forensic psychiatric services. Largely, we deal with criminal forensics. There's also prison services, rehabilitation, civil forensics, court services where we provide expert evidence in court, forensic liaison services, as well as a custodial medicine unit, whereby we look into especially detainees in custody who are held in custody, in remand, in police lockups, as well as in prison. The realm of forensic assessment or criminal responsibility is incorporated under the Criminal Procedure Code. This comes under Chapter 33 of the CPC in Malaysia, from Section 342 right up to Section 351. The bulk of forensic assessments done by us in this country pertains to the insanity defense. And the insanity defense is incorporated under Section 84 of the Penal Code of Malaysia, which is similar to the Penal Code of India, which states that nothing is an offense which is done by a person who at the time of doing it, by reason of a mental disorder, is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, nor that is doing what is either wrong or contrary to the law. This is the act of a person of unsound mind, and it is the test for legal insanity. Invariably, it is a cognitive test. Now, legal insanity is forms a large part of what a forensic psychiatrist does in Malaysia. It is largely a retrospective assessment of mental state, whereby we have to look at the mental state of the offender at the time where the alleged offense occurred. It could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months when the offense happened. It is pertinent that following the assessment that we show that this person has been deprived of his understanding, cognitive understanding, to understand the nature as well as the wrongfulness of his actions. This is the hallmark of the defense under Section 84 of the Penal Code. Now, just to run through a little bit, apart from, of course, assessing the offender with regards to his criminal responsibility at the time of the alleged offense, a lot of other sources of information that we rely upon coming to our opinion. We have, of course, to obtain corroborative information from family members and other significant people, information from police officers. We do, of course, sometimes visit crime scenes. If there are CCTV recordings available of the alleged offense, that would be helpful. We, of course, go through post-mortem reports. We do request for job performance reports and also past medical reports. Apart from that, a lot of other investigations are also carried out, usually blood and urine testing, radiological examinations, as well as an EEG. In certain cases, psychological tests may also be required, such as IQ testing, personality assessments, as well as neurocognitive testing. Now, there are certain issues when it comes to the practice of forensics in Malaysia, and especially issues with pertaining to criminal responsibility in this country. Insanity, of course, is a complete defense to against any crime, and the success in raising this defense usually results in a finding of not guilty by reason of insanity by the courts. Malaysia, of course, still retains the death penalty for almost 33 offenses, 12 of which carry the mandatory death sentence. Amongst the common offenses which carry the mandatory death penalty includes murder. This comes under Section 302 of the Penal Code. Trafficking of prohibited drugs, which is under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act, as well as the discharge of a firearm with intent to kill. This comes under Section 3 of the Firearms Increased Penalties Act 1971. So by just having the provision of the death penalty still available for some of these offenses, it puts a heavier burden on the forensic psychiatric evaluation to get the opinion absolutely right and spot on. Of course, in other jurisdictions that have the death penalty, they most of the time have an alternative defense or partial defense known as diminished responsibility, which is available only for the offense of murder. However, in this country, we do not have this partial defense of diminished responsibility, which invariably puts a heavier burden on the forensic psychiatrist's report that is tendered in court. The threshold for legal insanity, for that matter, is very high. Not many cases actually end up with a successful defense of legal insanity, despite having an established mental disorder. This is predominantly because legal insanity is a cognitive test. It has to be differentiated clearly from medical insanity, and the courts pay specific emphasis on psychopathology, where it has to be clearly showed that the psychopathology has to be directly linked to the alleged offense. And not only that, it had to cause significant cognitive impairment as to meet the standards and threshold of Section 84 of the Penal Code. So just in conclusion, in 2019, the forensic unit of Hospital Bahagia, we received almost 570 cases for insanity evaluations. This was a large number by our standards. But at the end of 2019, when we analyzed our cases, we found that only 0.8% of cases we reported as unsound mind, which amounted to about 5 or 6 cases, whereby and the other 4 cases we found them to be unfit to plead. This is a number that is similar to other countries which practice the same standard of insanity. However, I would like to say that, of course, forensic psychiatry is a rather new and developing area in Malaysia. There are a lot of other areas that we need to focus on to develop this field, predominantly the areas of risk assessment of violence, where we feel that we can assist the courts in a better way as to not just producing reports for criminal responsibility, but also assisting the courts when it comes to sentencing with regards to their risk posed. We are also looking to develop the area of community forensics by trying to enact new legislation such as the mandatory treatment order, so that we can treat first-time psychiatric offenders who commit relatively minor offenses, so that they can be channeled to an environment other than the prison. This is an effort to prevent recidivism amongst mentally ill offenders who are basically first-time petty offenders. And the last part is, of course, to encourage more young psychiatrists to take up the subspecialization of forensic psychiatry, as what the previous speaker had said before, when it comes to forensic experts, forensic evidence, there are lots of the stumbling block is to overcome the fear of giving evidence in court. So by and large, even general psychiatrists find it difficult and find it a challenge to take on this role as an expert witness in court. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I end my lecture. I hope that I have been able to impart some knowledge as well as information as to how forensic psychiatry is practiced in this country. With that, I thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your informative session. It was actually very helpful.
Thank you.
Dr. Nirosha.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
The keynote addresses have been given by Dr. Nazi Arafat Mahat, Faculty of Science, University Technology, Malaysia, who delivered his lecture on evidential value of forensic entomological assessments in forensic investigation and its challenges. Another enlightening lecture delivered by Dr. Mahendra Singh Pal, who is very senior advocate, High Court of Uttarakhand, India, former member of Parliament, Nainital, Presidency, former additional advocate general of Uttarakhand High Court, former president Committee on Urban and Rural Development, former president Committee on Urban and Rural Development again, and former president Uttarakhand Bar Council, and former president High Court Bar Association of Uttarakhand. He gave his address on admissibility of different types of evidence in the courts of law. And another, and the last third keynote address was given by Dr. Ian Lloyd Anthony, who belongs to Department of Forensic Psychiatry, Hospital Bahagiaulu, Kinta, Parek, Malaysia. And he very excellently spoke on forensic psychiatry and criminal justice system in Malaysia. So these keynote addresses are excellent addresses, very enlightening addresses given by these three keynote speakers, very honorable keynote speakers. But there are few mind-boggling questions of our participants. Although the questions are not allowed to ask over here because in this technical session keynote addresses have been given. But as the questions are very relevant and people are asking and so I'm requesting to these three keynote addresses to please take up these questions and give some kind of clarifications if there are. So now I'm opening it for the questions over these three addresses. Now, first of all, Dr. Nazit Arafat Mahat, who gave his address on evidential values of forensic entomology assessment in forensic investigations and its challenges. Dear participants, now your time, you can ask directly your question. Now, over here.
You can put questions now.
Are you having those participants and questions? Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. Any questions?
Yes. Which type of questions? Professor Adarsh Kumar.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask some compliment to Dr. Ian. So that's what I was waiting. That okay, if it is goes the speakers you are taking one by one. So better I will wait for the when the turn of Dr. Ian comes. So may I continue or should I wait for his turn?
Okay, you continue. You no. Yes, you can put your question.
Okay. It's not a question. Basically, it's rather a compliment to Dr. Ian for taking this very nice, hitherto unknown, relatively unknown, unexplored area of the forensic medicine. When we talk about the forensic psychiatry, basically it falls. The domain falls in between the psychiatry and forensic medicine. In India, still we don't have the structured forensic psychiatry program. So my question to Dr. Ian is, does his university or does the Malaysia has got some kind of degree or diploma specifically which imparts the degree of forensic psychiatry, or what is the procedure? As of now, what we are doing that here in if this kind of situation arises, usually a medical board is formed where a person from forensic medicine like me and a person from psychiatry and psychology, all these are put together and they deal with the issues, because we don't have the specified forensic, or you can say forensic psychiatrist, expert in forensic psychiatry. So I just want to understand what is the procedure in your country.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. That's an excellent question. Forensic psychiatry, by and large, in this region, is relatively still developing. So in Malaysia, we have a 3-year subspecialty program in forensic psychiatry. So that means post completion of the master's in psychiatry or psychological medicine, one can pursue his subspecialization in forensic psychiatry. It is a 3-year program. The first 2 years are done locally in Malaysia itself, whereby the trainee or the forensic trainee is attached to either one of the forensic units in the mental institutions in Malaysia. The 3rd year is usually a fellowship attachment in an overseas forensic psychiatric facility. And this can be done anywhere around the world. So upon completion of this 3-year program with that additional 1 year of fellowship in the foreign university or a foreign forensic facility, this 3-year program then constitutes the subspecialty training in forensic psychiatry. And yes, of course, the Ministry of Health of Malaysia does offer this program.
Okay, what about the eligibility criteria of the MD in forensic medicine? Like you said that MD in psychiatry is the essential criteria, but
Yes.
not the MD in forensic medicine. If suppose a student of forensic medicine or a graduate, a postgraduate of forensic medicine, after having his MD in forensic medicine, if he wants to venture into this forensic psychiatry, is he eligible to pursue or
Unfortunately, no, because the candidate has to have a basic degree in psychiatry first.
Psychiatry.
Yes, only then he can proceed to obtaining a subspecialization in forensic psychiatry.
That's what we are stuck here in India also.
Yes. Yes,
Because I just tried to have the forensic medicine, because there are so many forensic postgraduates who are interested to pursue in this field.
Yes.
But then when I inquired and I wanted to go ahead, the eligibility criteria, as you told, it is the psychiatry and other part of the world also.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we have to explore something in this field. Yeah. Thanks for your nice inputs. Maybe we can collaborate with your university in due course of time, and maybe
Yes.
we can develop some kind of collaboration in this particular aspect.
That would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
I am sir.
yes. Talk.
I have I have a question. Is criminology and forensic psychiatry related? Is it kind of similar topics, or does it have two different streams?
Criminology and forensic psychiatry are two different fields altogether, but it overlaps. Forensic psychiatry cannot exist without criminological knowledge, and we rely heavily on criminological evidence, especially in assessing criminal cases. So there is, of course, an overlap between these two fields, but they are distinctly separate.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. And I've got another query to actually Pal, sir.
What type of query? Dr. Nirosa, please put that before
what is
Dr.
so what is the admissibility of post-mortem report where cause of death is uncertain, but opinion has been made that the throatal marks were present and foam was coming out from mouth of victim?
Dr. Paul, are you able to take this particular query?
I am hearing, yes.
Yeah. Very good. Very nice. Very nice.
So far, if there is the uncertainty, so far regarding postmortem, there is no clarity so far is the cause of death is confirmed. In such cases, the doctor gives the visa, etc. Of the disease, and then it goes to the forensic lab for the assessor to know the better reason of the death. Are you listening?
Yes, sir, I'm listening. Yes, sir, I'm listening.
So far, if there is an uncertainty regarding the death of a person, then they give the doctor at the time of the postmortem, chemical analysis, etc. Then you know the better reason of the death.
Okay, sir.
Okay, now, Dr. Nirosa, are you having anything related with the address of Dr. Nazi Arafat Mahat? Any sort of queries, clarifications, questions, anything?
Regarding what?
So we might have a few from the FB Live, so I have not got the queries yet. Okay, is there, I answer, I guess this is to you. Is there any scope to do PhD in criminology and forensic science?
Yes.
In Lincoln University.
Lincoln.
It is to Lincoln University. I'm sorry, sir.
This is and I had a degree in bio. The study is going on.
Dr. Nirosa, you are putting your question before Dr. Pal?
No, sir. I'm putting it before Lincoln University. It was the question from the FB Live that I've raised.
No, it is not allowed. This is not allowed. It's not allowed.
No, it is. Okay, it is not from me, sir. It is from the live.
It is from the
live. It is from the FB Live. It is not from me,
sir. FB Live.
Yes.
Who is the person?
It is a participant who asked it in FB Live, and I've got it here. So I'm asking it on behalf of them.
Okay, then this question may go to the Malaysian speaker. not it will go to Dr. Pal. Okay. Dr. Pal.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Doctor. No, Dr. Ian Lloyd Anthony can answer. Dr. Lloyd.
Can you repeat that question again, Nirosha?
Yeah. Dr. Nirosha, please repeat your question.
Yeah, no, it was just asked, is there any scope to do PhD in criminology and forensic science in Lincoln University, and what is the eligibility criteria? So that
well,
is the
I'm
reason.
not sure about Lincoln University, but I suppose that a PhD in criminology, I think, would be better answered by Dr. Rahim Kamaluddin. If Dr. Rahim is available to answer this question, I think he would be a better person to answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Yen.
Is here?
Yes, I'm here.
Most welcome,
All right.
Dr. Rahim. Please.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Regarding whether a candidate can pursue his or her PhD in forensic science and criminology, the answer is yes. We are most welcome. We have several public universities offering PhD in forensic sciences, and around 2 universities are actually offering PhD in criminology by research mode. Yeah, and then what are the eligibility if you want to become, if you want to pursue your PhD in forensic science? Of course, you must have at least a degree in forensic science or related areas such as chemistry, biomedicine, and so on, which you can further specialize in PhD. And for criminology, PhD in criminology, since criminology is a sub-discipline within sociology, a degree from sociology, opinology, or social work, I think would justify for you to do PhD in criminology as well, Prof.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you so much. And any other queries related with these addresses?
Yes, sir.
Dr.
There is another query that I've got to Naji, sir. Naji,
Yes,
sir,
please.
you're there. How conclusive have the entomological evidence development in court of law in current scenario? Should the court become more aware of entomological evidence?
Okay, to answer that question is actually quite accurate. If you listen carefully to my talk, beyond 72 hours of death, pathological changes would not be sufficient to tell the estimated post-mortem interval. Rather, the entomological evidence is the more accurate because the pattern is actually predictable and they are relatively fresh. So it has been admissible in many courts actually when it comes into forensic entomological evidence. It's actually a well-established forensic evidence.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nasi. And the whole organizing team of IWCFSC is very much obliged to these 3 keynote speakers, particularly Dr. Mahendra Singh Pal, Dr. Nazi Arafat Mahat, Dr. Ian Lloyd Anthony. Very enlightening, outstanding, and fantastic lecture given by these 3 speakers. Now, as time is not permitting me to carry on further, so I am here opening another part of this particular session that is related with the other participants who are waiting, who are supposed to present their oral papers, oral presentations, and poster presentations. But they all are being given only 7 minutes, and for poster presentation, they are only given 3 minutes. So Dr. Nirosha, please put your list before us, and who is waiting here, and who are the paper presenter and poster presenter. Dr. Nirosha, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
You can first call Miss Upashna Bora to present her paper. Sorry.
I did not get you, sir.
Actually, it's the. I would like to call Upasana Bora to present her paper here in this event. The paper title is Judicial Impact of Forensic Science in Criminal Trial in India.
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. I'm just going to share this screen with you.
Yes.
Upasana, you can now proceed as a host.
Yes, sir, but I am unable to share the screen. So can I just present the audio paper?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, sure. The paper of mine was Judicial Impact of Forensic Science in Criminal Trial in India and Analysis. So basically in this paper, I will be dealing with the role of forensic science, how it has been dealing in the last few years. So significance of forensic science in criminal investigation is that like in going through a legal scenario, if I see that there is a huge independence of forensic reports as they come to reduce of the prosecution to establish a case despite the witness turning hostile and the evidence being tampered. So the consequences of error investigation of a crime scene would defeat the very purpose of a fair trial as investigated in the justice delivery system in India. So the cardinal principle of criminal law, as we know that an accused shall be presumed innocent until and unless he is sorry, sir.
Miss Upasana, you share the screen?
Actually, I am not able to share the screen. I tried it, but it's not working.
Okay, then you
go ahead. Okay, sir. So the cardinal principle of criminal law is an accused shall be presumed innocent until and unless he is proven guilty by his acts. In criminal law, the basic concept of jurisprudence is let the 100 countries go free, but the innocent person shall not be punished. That's the basic principle which criminal law has stated. And the objective of my paper is to examine the pros and cons of forensic sciences investigation in trial and criminal cases, to study the Supreme Court judgment on the forensic methods, to study about the constitutional validity of the forensic tools, as well as to provide recommendations for suitable measures in promoting justice. So the research methodology which I had taken is like from secondary data and websites and libraries of international journals and articles, the books collected and the literature review gives a better insight of the topic and scope for this research. So the highlights of the paper is to focus on the judicial organ of the government, which is taking a legal approach in figuring cases. So here I will be saying that the paper which I will be dealing with, it just says that the role of judiciary, which has been focusing in many years in promoting justice, that already I have stated the cardinal principle of criminal law. So the paper will be dealing like a legal approach where we know that the law is for everyone. So no emotional. Sorry, sir. Hello. Hello, is it working?
Yeah, you can proceed. Nothing for you actually.
Yeah, yes, sir. So in the landmark judgment of Sunenda Puskar case, which was held in 17 January 2014, here her case was like she was found dead in a five-star hotel of Delhi, where a head of department of forensic science has said that the report of Sunenda Puskar murder case has been changed twice, and later on it came to know that yes, there has been some sort of misuse of the forensic test, because the confession made in police under the evidence act of 25 and 26 is not valid, but yeah, the confession
sorry to interrupt Upasana.
Yes,
allow me as a host, and I'm just going to share your paper on my screen.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
How will I allow you, sir?
You will get that option at my profile, Alpha Forensic Lab.
Okay, sure, sir. Why? So I'm not able to do it.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Can proceed?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was a case which was held in Sunita murder case, and now the case was pitfall blast case which was held in 2015. It was also same, and investigation has noted down that there is soft skill of techniques in the criminal investigation. We still lack down that the Indian judiciary need to focus on it. And while dealing with the Constitution of India, Article 20, Clause 3 said that the rule which is against the self-discrimination make it clear that these tests cannot be done without the consent of the accused through these dangerous like third-degree methods used by the police. So, in the case of Selvi versus State of Karnataka, it was also observed that Article 21 of the Constitution of India deals with the right to life and personal liberty, and it also interpreted to include right against cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatments. So, NRH's guidelines also. So guidelines has also been listed that no lie detector should be accepted in the basis of the contents of this accused. If the accused consists to such cases, then he should be assisted by a lawyer. The consent of the parties is very much necessary before the judicial magistrate. The statement shall have the status of a statement made to the police officer. The magistrate shall consider the length of detention and the manner of the interrogation. It shall be done by the independent agency like hospital and in presence of a lawyer. Full medical information should be received in the taken of a record. So the conclusion and cessation of insects is to this research has been found by peer-reviewed research to encourage rituals on human observed eyes, to establish standard strategies for testifying on forensic sciences. Judiciary has the frame guidelines for the proper use and restrictions of this forensic techniques in improper manner. Thank you. Sir, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Upasana. Okay. We have our next speaker to present the paper. We have Madonna Matthew to present biology of insect interaction on vertebrate corpse of forensic significance.
Okay, ma'am, am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. Ma'am, actually my paper is undetermined pelvis and overview. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Madonna Matthew from the School of Forensic Science and Risk Management, Raksha Shakti University, Gujarat. I'm here to present my paper, The Undetermined Pelvis. So to begin with, forensic anthropology is the application of physical anthropology to legal cases, usually with a focus on the human skeleton. It uses the techniques of physical anthropology to analyze skeletal, unidentified human remains to solve cases. Forensic anthropologists can assess the age, sex, and unique features of a descendant. The most important of it is the pelvic bone or the hip bone. The pelvic bone. Forensic experts claim that they can state with 95% certainty the gender of the person if the hip bone, the pelvic bone is provided. The differences between the adult female and male pelvis is related to function and body size. The bones of male pelvis are thicker and heavier, adapted for support of the male's heavier physical build and stronger muscles, whereas the female pelvis is adapted for childbirth. It is wider than the male pelvis. The undetermined pelvis. The bodies of the trans and intersex people are inherently problematic to our current system because they cannot be easily categorized. With transgender and intersex people, forensic anthropologists face additional challenges in evaluating the presented sexual characteristics of a gaggle of human remains. Forensic anthropologists use the term biological sex to ask the skeleton's physical sex characteristics. In short, we can say that they are assigning the sex. Assessing sex characteristics. In assessing physical sex characteristics, an anthropologist evaluates the pelvis on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is very female and 5 means very male. For example, male pelvises are taller in that their iliac crests are more vertical, whereas the female iliac crests tend to be flared to accommodate a potential fetus. After tallying the scores of several segments of the pelvis, each which is individually given a score between 1 to 5, the anthropologist decides if the skeleton is more female or more male. A spectrum is necessary because skeletal remains do not always fit into simply binary. Some pelvises are marked with a number 3. They likely contain an equal number of male and female components. They are too nondescript to be assigned into a sex category. If a pelvis is scored as 3, anthropologists are trained to assign its sex as undetermined or to simply give it a question mark. No further guidance is offered to those in forensic anthropology as to what to do with the pelvises marked as 3. There are no studies on the relationship between nondescript pelvises and the remains of intersex or transgender individuals. Additional challenges. What does the human skeleton of an individual who undergoes sexual reassignment surgery and ensuring hormone replacement therapy to change from a male to female look like? What should a forensic anthropologist do with this information other than writing of the skeleton sex category as undetermined? How might it relate to all problematic pelvises categorized as 3? How this issue could be resolved? Longitudinal studies of trans or intersex individuals undergoing hormone therapy would be one way to advance this research. Forensic anthropologists could partner with endocrinologists to track the changes to human pelvises when someone begins taking synthetic hormones. Measuring the long-term effects on the skeleton would help inform biological...
Madonna Matthew, please be precise.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Profiles of
time
transgender...
is going to be over.
Yes, sir. Yes. Of transgender and intersex bodies. Researchers should continue to explore the full biological spectrum of human body as well as contribute to important discussions about remains that don't fit the standard binary model. One way to start training the next generation is to question their assumptions is to teach students that a pelvis scored as 3 is not simply unclassified and it may perfectly represent the human body it resides in. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Madonna Matthew.
Is there any question? Any clarification? Any queries? Dr. Nirosha, Suresh.
Yes,
Are
sir.
you
No queries. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you
no
getting
queries.
any sort of queries related with
Not
this
yet,
paper?
sir. No, not yet anyways.
Then next paper
No, so this is the end of
presentation
the paper.
of Professor
Presentation
Rahul
is done. Now
Bharti.
we have...
He will join us in 5 minutes.
Professor Rahul Bharti is here. Professor Rahul Bharti. Oh, God. Okay, then go on with the post presentation.
Yes,
Post
sir.
presentation. Yes, Nirosha.
First, we have Falguni Oja to present the poster. His topic is optical coherence tomography.
Is she here?
Yes,
Yes,
yes, I'm
Falguni
here.
Oja.
So my poster is with Mehnaz Sheikh. Like we both are doing it together.
Huh? Falguni Oja.
Yes, sir.
Where is your poster?
Sir, I need to share screen or they can share. I have submitted the poster.
Yeah, Madonna, please allow Falguni as a host.
Madonna, please shift the host post to Alpha Forensic Science Lab. Madonna, you there? Madonna?
Ma'am, can you just tell me how to just shift this host?
Okay, just press on Alpha Forensic Group and then you can shift the post to Alpha.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am, got it.
Thank you, Madonna.
Now, I shared this session with Falguni to present his poster, her poster.
Yes, sir.
Falguni, your time is on.
Yes, sir.
Video चल रहा है.
Good afternoon to our honorable guests, speakers, and all the participants. I, Mehnaz Sheikh. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Good afternoon to our honorable guests, speakers, and all the participants. I am Mehnaz Sheikh with my co-Falguni Oja, the students of Master of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Institute of Forensic Science and Criminology from Bundelkhand University, Jhansi, are here before you to present our poster on the topic Optical Coherence Tomography. OCT is basically used for imaging the surface as well as subsurface, or we can say multilayer tissue morphology in 2D and 3D of a fingertip. The current inherent limit is that the surface fingerprint scanning standard provides a 2D fingerprint representation that accommodates fingerprint spoofing, thus requiring sophisticated methods for authenticity detection. The surface scanners are touch-based and thus introduce distortion. Surface fingerprint skin is also prone to damage. The ridge and furrows on the surface of the friction-rich skin are firmly rooted in the dermis. This layer of skin is known as the papillary junction, which has the same topography as the surface. Thus, the surface and the internal fingerprint have the same structure. These are persistent and cannot change with the damage caused to the upper layer. OCT is used in such conditions. It is a non-contact, non-destructive, and non-invasive novel technique that usually uses lasers with high speed, high resolution, and high precision as a source for imaging.
OCT is much robust and has the modality to capture both structural as well as microangiographic, that is the radiography of the blood capillaries flowing through the fingerprint, which helps in liveness detection and artificial fingerprint detection. Different algorithms like internal fingerprint feature extraction, various clustering algorithms, etc. are used for detection and extraction of internal prints. Now we see the working of the technique in the figure. The first block shows the different layers of the fingerprint. The second block shows the internal fingerprint detection zone in which algorithms like clustering and fine-tuning, etc. are applied that helps in detection of papillary junction.
Detection of papillary junction, the localized fingerprint extraction is done. The statistical evaluation of values provided by the algorithms applied in detection is calculated of the detected zone. The internal fingerprint is extracted by averaging the pixel in the detected region. At last, the prints are enhanced
Speckle noise is removed and contrast is enhanced and stretched as to get the clear print view.
Thus, OCT is a powerful tool for security and document identification applications, and is growing interest in fraud identity fraud investigations. There is currently no related technology for peeling layer by layer or till micrometer depth except the OCT system. Thank you. So any questions? Okay.
There are no questions put forward till now, but if we get any, we'll update you with the questions.
Sure, sir. Sure, ma'am.
So thank you so much, Mehnaz Sheikh and Falguni Oja. Next, we have Aditya Vikram Gaur and team. To present toxicological assessment of entomological specimens and its application in forensic science. Aditya, you there? Aditya, Seemant and Swapnil. Okay, is
Hello.
V. Ramanan and Nirmala there?
Yes. Hello, ma'am.
I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, you are? Yeah, you are?
And do you hear me?
Ma'am, Aditya here.
Aditya Vikram, is that you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. So you can start off with your poster presentation.
Ma'am, do I need to share it on the screen as well, or will you be able to share it?
Just a minute.
Actually, my webcam is not working, so I'll be just, you'll be able to listen to me only.
Okay. Sir, are you sharing their poster, sir? Or shall I, will you shift the host to Aditya Vikram, sir? Okay, yeah, Aditya, you can share your screen.
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah.
I'm just opening my poster. Do I need to click on the share screen?
Yes, you need to press on the share screen, and then you can share your screen.
Is it visible now?
But it's loading, it's not yet coming, but we can see that you're sharing your screen.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah, it is visible. It is visible.
Okay. A very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Aditya Gaur, and I'm working as a junior research fellow in Gujarat Forensic Sciences University. And the topic of my poster is toxicological assessment of entomological specimens and its application in forensic sciences. It is basically a review paper that I'm going to present. So first of all, we'll start with what is forensic entomology. It has already been discussed. I've seen a few presentations in which about the introduction of forensic entomology has been discussed. So I'll just give its definition only. It is a study of insects for the purpose of criminal investigation. So forensic entomology is all about the criminal investigation using insects. So here I'm going to talk about the entomotoxicology, which is a new and emerging field in forensic entomology. It is about the application of entomology used in forensic sciences for qualitative as well as quantitative determination of toxic substances in insects that feed on decomposing human tissues. As we know already, in India there are a lot of drug poisoning cases in which quantitative determination as well as qualitative determination is crucial in determining the cause of the death. Apart from that cause, we can also determine the post-mortem interval, that is the time interval since death. The entomotoxicology can also be used to detect metals and larvae, pesticides in larvae, metals and pesticides both in larvae, and also drugs in pupae. Here in the poster, as you can see, the life cycle of the blowfly is given, which shows the different time intervals of the stages of blowfly. Also here a chart is given which helps us in determining the post-mortem interval, in which the procedure of collection of the beetles, how do we grow them in the laboratory, and how do we determine the post-mortem interval by using its length and the sex. Methodology, which includes sample collection and preservation. It includes the different type of flies that we collect from the crime scene. Larvae, pupae, adult flies, these are taken and these are washed with cold water or luke water and dried on absorbent materials. Afterwards, they are killed by freezing and stored at 4 degrees C and -4 degrees C or at -20 degrees C. In case of pupal cases, chitinized tissues, it is washed with methanol and vertex for 10 seconds and centrifuged for 15 minutes and then dried under nitrogen. There are different types of samples like inorganic and organic samples. There are different sample preparation techniques which are given here in the poster. Now moving on to the sample analysis part. Here we use different instruments for the analysis of samples. The aqueous extracts analyzed as fluids and purified by the solid phase extraction or liquid extraction, and then analysis is done as follows. The instruments that are used for the analysis are atomic emission spectroscopy, atomic absorption spectroscopy, ICP-MS. ICP-MS is basically used for elemental analysis. For the detection of organic substance, we use TLC, that is thin layer chromatography, GC, that is gas chromatography, GCMS, gas chromatography mass spectrometry, and HPLC, that is high performance liquid chromatography. The studies conducted with these instruments are can be of like organic as well as inorganic. The sample preparation technique has already been mentioned in the chart. So these, for conclusion, I would like to the forensic application of, first of all, I would like to mention these insects and arthropods are used for the use of insects in legal matters, as the forensic entomology definition itself explains. Due to severity of decomposition of the muscle tissues, maggots or arthropods are the only evidence to detect concentration of drugs. Because in case of bodies which are
Sorry to interrupt you. Your time is getting over, like it's kind of over, so it's better that you speed up.
Okay. So I just want to conclude that these arthropods are valuable tools in the cases of homicides, suicides, and unattended human deaths. Entomotoxicology is a new field that is coming up, and we need to enhance or we need to develop in this field for cases where the death or the cause of the death are not known, or maybe it is suspected that it is caused due to some kind of drugs or toxins. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aditya Gaur and team. Next, there are no queries yet, so I'll let you know if there are any queries.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Please make Alpha Group the host again. Just shift the host post to them.
Okay, I'm not sure how to do that.
Okay, just press on Alpha, press on their name, and then you will get the option to switch the host to make them.
Okay, I got it. Done.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now we have Professor Rahul Bharti to present his paper. Sir? Rahul, sir? Sir? Rahul, sir, please unmute your mic.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Yeah. Can I start? Yeah. That Aditya's
Sure,
Gauri,
sir,
I can go.
You can proceed.
I can proceed. Can I proceed,
Yes, sir.
ma'am?
Yes, sir. You can proceed.
Okay. So first of all, the team is congratulated to. Okay. So first of all, I congratulate to the team that they are started out. They take an initiative to launch a international conference on forensic science and criminology. So it's very most important topic, I can say it. And as far as the forensic science and the criminal justice systems are concerned, it's a very important topic, we can say it is a very crucial one. And as far as if we mention about the criminal justice systems are concerned, today the whole world is revolved on the crime scene investigations are concerned. And forensic science is nothing but the application of some science with the legal principles are there. So if you go as a forensic science are concerned, the criminal investigations can proceed with the forensic science techniques, because today scientific investigations are such a level that scientific investigator methodologies are always used in the criminal justice systems are there. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes,
hello?
Sir, you're audible.
So that's why you see there are different branches of forensic science also there, like your forensic toxicology also there. Then if you go ballistics also there, that is firearm experts, we can say it is there. We can say cyber forensics is also one of the branches also there. The forensic biology also one of the there. We are always used for determinants are concerned in the course of the law. So if you go further ahead, as far as these scientific techniques, as I mentioned, as a forensic techniques are always useful for the analysis of the court cases are concerned, and that's why they are called a forensic expert. They are called the expert witness in the courtroom. That skilled persons, because they know everything, assist the institution's point of view. Helpful, always useful. Because if you see the meaning of the forensic, the word forensic comes from the forensier, it's a Latin word, means a gathering where the judicial debates are always there. So we cannot be bifurcate and differentiate between the forensic science and the law are different. No, they are interlinked to each other. Because as far as the criminal justice administrations are concerned, naturally these techniques are always helpful. It can always helpful for the police personnel. It can guide the court because the court, judges, lawyers, prosecutors are not well versed about the forensic science techniques or scientific methodologies. So this expert person, these techniques can always help to proceed to some extent conviction of now we can use the test, psychological tests, polygraph test, brain electrical activation profile test are there, P300 test are also there. Various methodologies are upcoming that can be always used to test on the legal principles. But I mention here what is their admissibility, this evidence in the courtroom. Can we say whatever the expert persons can mention in the courtroom can be admissible by the courtroom, by the judges? Not at all. As far as the India is concerned, the role of the forensic expert as giving the forensic evidences in the court merely as a recommendation. They will accept the scientific technique used by the forensic experts while making analysis of the case or not. It is the mind of the judges. Judiciary is the gatekeepers. They will decide. So that's why the scientific tests are there, forensic evidences are there, particularly in DNA analysis also concerned. If you see the number of the case laws are concerned, particularly these cases can be tested. These scientific techniques, these forensic evidences always challenge in the course of the law. And that challenge on the constitutionality of these forensic evidences. Can we mention these forensic evidences are a constitutional, as a constitution of the India is the basic law in India, basic law in India. So all other laws or all other techniques are tested with this scientific this constitution of the India. And that's why particularly Article 20 Clause 3 is the most important fundamental right of the accords. Here their narco test and BAP test, polygraph test are challenged, which violates, which is on their ground. Number of the Supreme Court case, University of Karnataka, here particularly, the Supreme Court of India is mentioned involuntary administration of the narco test is really a violation of Article 20 Clause 3. But if, I mention here, Goat also mentioned, but if he himself submit, if the accused persons himself submit for the court for administration of a narco test, then and then only narco test can be administered on accused person, but in the presence of a judicial magistrate first class and some nearby relatives should be there. That is why some guidelines are issued in Selvi's case, because the scientific techniques are always challenged in the courtroom on the basis of violation of their fundamental right. These are the one single instance I can mention. If you see in other contexts, if you see in the US Supreme Court judgments, the most important judgments which they laid on the guidelines regarding the admissibility of these scientific methods for proving the particular matter in the before the course of the law. So they mentioned the Supreme Court laid down some kind of weightage can be attached to the forensic evidences in the courtroom. That is, the US Supreme Court judgments are there, and they mentioned some guidelines. I mentioned what USA mentioned in the Daubert guidelines, particularly. They clearly mentioned that the first and most important guideline which the Daubert is mentioned, judge is the gatekeeper of whether we can that evidence which is cited which can be attached. Can we accept or not? Ultimate decision belongs to the judiciary. Judges can be decided. They also mentioned the guidelines whether the evidences or the method which is used by the expert to prove its matter in the course of the law, which method these expert persons as a forensic expert, really the methods are accepted in the scientific community at large. Whether his methods which he used for doing the particular making analysis of samples, it is published in some journals, some reviewed articles are there. These mentioned in Daubert guidelines are very important as a landmark judgment, which is not accepted in the USA, but in number of the following cases are mentioned. But section 4 of CRPC can also mention the examination of the accused person. if there is reasonable doubt for his the says as a forensic experts regarding the admissibility are mentioned in section 45 to section 51 of the Indian Evidence Act. And if you see the section 45, they only mention who is the expert person, but today we require some amendments in the section 45 because they mention any person who is skilled in the art and science, particularly handwriting, fingerprints are concerned. That person can be taken by through experience or to qualify or eligible as an expert person. But sometimes it requires some amendments. In today's context, upcoming technology are so advancement. If we are in the we are living in it.
Bharati.
Yeah.
To be precise. To be precise, and come on to conclusion.
Okay.
Professor Bharati, are you able to hear me?
So overall we can mention it is there important, but it is very restrictive because of the constitutional principle. Because of the fundamental principle in can say requirement of its some amendments in the Indian Evidence Act. Both of them gave me option the International Conference of Criminology and the Forensic Science. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Bharati.
Thank you so much, sir.
Dr. Nirosha, yeah. Go ahead. Who is the next?
The queries. We have next is the poster presentation.
Yes.
We have V. Ramanan and M. Nirmala. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And
yes,
Professor Rahul sir, could you please shift the host to Alpha group again?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can close myself now.
I did not get you.
Okay, yeah. How to share my screen?
Yes, sir. You'll be made the host, and then you can share your screen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Rahul sir, did you change the host?
Okay, just a minute, ma'am. So, what should I do for changing the host actually here? What arrangement I can do here?
Just click on Alpha Forensic Group, and then there will be an option to make them the host. You can do that.
Where, ma'am? To a more option meeting setting.
No, in Alpha Forensic Group, if you just click that, just press on that, you will get an option to make them the host.
Dr. Bharti, just click on the logo of Alpha Forensic Lab. You will get 3 dots there at the up right corner. Yeah. Then allow me as a host.
I click the 3 dot also. Their records are there. Chat is there. Meeting setting is there actually.
पोस्टर प्रेजेंटेशन है ना फाल्गुनी ओझा का हो गया
हाँ अभी मेरा पोस्टर नहीं that's my paper present is already over so I can I directly end it will be sufficient for them or not.
You can now quit as a host.
Okay. Participant list is there. To whom I can make a host?
Alpha Forensic Group.
Just 1 minute. Okay. There is this options are come mute chat make. Just I make a host.
Yeah, you're done now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, welcome, sir. Yeah.
Now who's to call Miss Nirosha?
We have V. Ramanan and M. Nirmala to present visualization of latent fingerprints using neutral alumina as an inexpensive fingerprint developing powder.
Yeah, I request Ramanan to proceed with his poster actually.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is my PowerPoint is visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I am V. Ramanan, Junior Scientific Officer from Tamil Nadu State Forensic Science Laboratory. So now my title of presentation is Visualization of Latent Fingerprints using Neutral Alumina as an Inexpensive Fingerprint Developing Powder. So we know that the unicity, permanency, and the generality of fingerprints make them as a reliable identification feature in crime and civil cases all over the globe. The powder dusting method is simplest and most commonly used method to detect the latent fingerprints among various available methods. Although several powders have been demonstrated earlier as visualization agents of latent fingerprints, in some contexts they are expensive, toxic, and are not easily accessible since they usually composed of various materials which are not easily accessible. And still, there is a lot of scope for the development of new fingerprint powders. So here in this study, we have introduced neutral alumina, commonly used in the thin layer chromatography as a stationary phase as a new fingerprint developing agent. A neutral alumina is a cheap, easily available, and easily accessible. We know that one of the most common laboratory consumable is the neutral alumina. It is non-toxic and convenient material to handle. So let us look at the structure of neutral alumina. The red color structure depicts the structure of neutral alumina, and this diagram shows the possible interaction between the neutral alumina and the fingerprint emanations. We know that the fingerprint emanations are largely consist of water and amino acids. So the neutral alumina can form hydrogen bonds and coordinate bonds. We know that alumina is a Lewis acid, so it can easily accommodate a lone pair of electron from oxygen atom. In this study, the effectiveness of alumina as a fingerprint powder has been demonstrated on 16 various substrates of different properties. This diagram, this figure shows the latent fingerprints developed using neutral alumina, and the fingerprints are developed on smooth surfaces, various smooth surfaces, and this one shows the same. This one shows the same at various engraved, porous, or textured surfaces. So we can see that in most of the surfaces, the neutral alumina develops a clear fingerprint, but it is failed in case of cardboard box, and currency note, and cloth. So the alumina developed fingerprint shows the second level information, also called the minutiae features. So in this diagram, we can see the minutiae features such as the dots, enclosures, bifurcation, trifurcation, delta, and so forth. And this one is a digital enlargement of this diagram at core region. So we can see the sweat pores all over the ridges. And this one is the optical microscope image of the alumina developed fingerprint, and the sweat pores are marked here. And these diagrams are confocal microscope images of the alumina developed fingerprints. And here the distance between the two successive ridges are ranging from 150 micrometer to 190 micrometer approximately. And this diagram shows that the third level informations the relative positions of the sweat pores can also be evaluated from the alumina developed fingerprints. That's the conclusions. Most of the alumina developed substrates showed excellent contrast and visibility. Alumina development offers the possibility for extracting all the three level information from a latent fingerprint. The neutral alumina powder can therefore be an effective and inexpensive substituent for other commonly used fingerprint powders, particularly in the case of shortage. This paper is recently accepted in International Journal of Forensic Science. Thank you. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions?
Not yet. I mean, no one has inquired anything. So if there is anything on the way, I'll let you know.
Can I transfer the host again, ma'am?
Yes. Yes, sir. Please do that.
அட்டன் பண்ணிருக்கேன். சரி நான் இதை முடிச்சுட்டு கூப்பிடுறேன்.
So could you mute your mic?
Okay.
Ma'am, I have transferred the host again.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
Next, we have Pradeep Kumar Paul to present his poster on forensic cyber psychology in pandemic period.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Can I get the share screen option, please?
Yes,
I
sir.
allowed you.
You have been the host, so you can share your screen, sir.
Thank you. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. It is. I mean, currently it's a white paper. Yeah. Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Good afternoon to all speakers present here. I, Pradeep Kumar Paul, a student of Amity Institute of Forensic Sciences, is here to present my topic, Forensic Cyber Psychology in Pandemic Period. What is cyber psychology? Cyber psychology is the study of adverse effect on the human mind and behavior due to its interaction with the cyberspace. My objective of this project is to study the various psychological problems that can be developed during the lockdown and give possible and feasible conclusions and problems to them. For this, I have used Google Forms, which is distributed and circulated among different universities and offices. My results of findings are that it is seen that 41% of the people are stressed out at home staying during the lockdown. This is basically due to the lack of freedom which they have lost due to the lockdown, which results in emotional turmoils, mood swings, depression, and tensions. People use internet to communicate with others, with the outer world, hence which can lead to insomnia, increasing cases of cyber addiction, lack of concentration at the workplaces, and irregular sleep patterns. It is seen that the usage of internet has mounted to 18 to 22 hours from 8 to 10 hours during the lockdown. Basically, the e-virtual platforms which are used by the schools for online classes affect the psyche of the children, their eyesight. It is seen as some families are unable to afford a good equipment such as a laptop, smartphones, or a good internet connectivity. Hence, it lowers the self-esteem and confidence of the children. He can't tell anybody about his problem. He might think that the people or his friends might be bullying on this topic to him. This also creates a generation gap between them. Social media platforms provide more opportunity for cyberbullying and cyber stalking. According to online intelligence firms, personal data of 2.9 crore people have been leaked on the dark web. Because when we use internet, we try that we must become famous on that. We share our status, we share our personal photos so that people would appreciate it, but it is not correct. It gives others a more opportunity for this kind of crimes. People are so tensed during the lockdown for the fear of corona that any scam as a health treatment for corona, health insurance for corona treatment, resulting the person gives away their personal details, resulting in fraud, while the person turns into self-aggression and suicidal behaviors. It is also seen that different sari challenges on different social media platforms are used for the pornographic purposes. There are several social media platforms which must be age restricted and also promote some algorithms such as acid attack, animal killings, etc. Finally, I like to conclude by saying that we, in this information age, where information is wealth, we must protect ourselves from this breach. Where self-control, we have to make strong our self-control and determination. We must indulge in physical activities like yoga, meditation, etc. We must keep our mobile data off so that the risk of insomnia is minimized. We must use mobile calls to communicate with others. We must strengthen our privacies and stop sharing our personal photos on the social internet. We must always give a psychological friendly assistance to our friends and relatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. There are no queries yet. So if there is anything that is coming, I'll let you know, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
So this is the end of the first session of the day. So now I would call it for a lunch break for 15 to 20 minutes. And everyone is requested to be back after 15 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Paul.
Yes, sir.
Can you please quit from host? Please allow me as a host now.
I have given Alpha Forensic Group India as a host.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, participants. You can take your break for 15 minutes and then come back after 15 minutes for the next session of the day. So you can start leaving by now. It's okay. So you there? Shobit, sir, you there?